Hey there, everybody. I hope y'all are doing okay. Excuse my voice. I've been sick the last few days. So today I'm going to talk about whether or not college athletes should be able to get paid for schools and companies using their likenesses. This is something that came up a few years ago and is still a big thing being discussed today while they work on the outcome. I'm going to cover 3 points which will give you, the reader, knowledge on the situation and allow you to come to form your own opinion. First, I'm going to be discussing the cons of these athletes being paid. As some of you may know, student athletes receive scholarships that help them pay for the cost of college. And breaking it down further, we will go over determining salaries and the fact that the schools with more money would benefit more. Excuse me. So when it comes to determining salaries, if they are paid by the school or some other institution, is it going to be an equal playing field? Or do the more popular players get more money? Next, we would have to figure out if bigger or more popular schools would get more money. Next, we would have to figure out if bigger, more popular schools would get more, since it's likely that they would generate a bigger revenue. If these bigger schools have a bigger budget, does that mean that they would get all the top players in the country and that the smaller schools would be left out? Basically, allowing these bigger schools to form like a big superpower, But next, what happens to the smaller sports that don't bring in as much money, or they just tossed aside? And this is like not attacking these sports, but obviously college football, college basketball, and the such bring in usually more money than I would say maybe like swimming or track. I don't know. I feel like it's a lot more level now than it was years ago. Um, and so, what happens to those student athletes, like of the smaller sports, if they decide to do away with them? Lastly, will the students be forced to use their money to only pay for school stuff like books, tuition, room and board, etc., or will it be at the player's discretion? Then you have the issue that if the players can use the money for whatever, if they're not responsible and they spend their money on other things, like they pay for part of the class and spend their money on other things, and then they run out of money, or they're just going to get more money from the school, or, will they have to come up with the money themselves? There's a whole lot of things. Um, so that's kind of like a breakdown of like the cons of paying the students. So now I'm going to switch and talk about the pros. I think there are some good reasons why student athletes should be paid or should be allowed to profit from their likeness, like autographs, jerseys, etc., etc. Um, some of the pros are not all students have a full scholarship. Playing equals working harder, and the student already brings in exposure money for the school. The first thing to understand is that just because a person plays college sports doesn't mean they have a full scholarship. And even then, or the ones that do have a scholarship, it's not always a full ride. According to an article published on the subject by, and I'm going to butcher his name, Drozdowski, in 2021, the average scholarship is around $18,000 a year. And if the student goes to a private or an out-of-state school, that $18,000 a year is not going to be enough to cover the cost of tuition for just that year. Excuse me, if the student is able to be paid, that'll greatly reduce the financial strain on that player or their parent. We have incentive. According to another blog on this topic by Galilee in 2018, less than about 2% of college athletes go on to the big leagues. They were able to make money. That would be more reason for them to give just as much effort as maybe some of their more talented counterparts, if that makes sense. I know they don't play like less than, but maybe they would play harder, because if they were making more money, if they played harder, then I think I just confused y'all. I just confused myself. Okay, again, according to Drozdowski, in 2017, the NCAA took a survey. Division I athletes usually spend about 35 hours a week on sports. If a student has to work a minimum wage job to cover costs, study, attend class, and still commit so much time to sports, it's going to be a huge strain. And I know a lot of people may think, oh, well, just suck it up, which, hey, that's very true. But we're just talking about the pros of if they didn't have to work that minimum wage job. Lastly, college generates millions of dollars from sports, millions. I mean, if you like any type of sports or you've ever been to a college game or watched one or anything, like you know just how much money they bring in from ticket sales, concessions, um, um, money that they make from the TV networks. It's just a ridiculous amount of money. So if they're already getting all this money anyway for the schools, why should the student not be allowed to receive a part of a profit? We go to work every day and we make our boss however much money. We're not going to accept the fact that he doesn't pay us. I mean, we're the ones doing the work. So so now I'm going to switch over and tell you how the general public feels about the situation. So even though some people may realize that college athletes are not always given a full ride for sports, not a lot of people are in favor of them getting paid. The points about this would be that some people have stated they will no longer watch or attend sports if athletes were paid in any type of way besides a scholarship. According to a report by Solomon in 2014, about 31% of people are in favor of the students being paid, and that's 69% of the public and 61% of sports fans oppose the students being paid. Some will even stop watching or attending games. It says if the athletes were paid $20,000, then about 38% wouldn't watch. If they were paid $50,000, then 47% wouldn't watch, and so on. They were paid $200,000, 53% or more wouldn't watch or attend games. So there's obviously not a lot of support from the public and sports fans. So basically, the debate can go back and forth depending on the person's view. Some feel the students should get paid since they bring in so much money for the school and it will be a huge relief to the families. Then you have those that feel they're already getting a free education. But are they really, though? Remember, not all students are on a scholarship, and at least not all students are on a scholarship, and a lot of those that are not getting a full ride, which puts a strain on the family. I hope that I presented you today with enough information to somewhat form your own opinion in the idea, in the matter. Thank you.